Welcome to the Marketing and Monetizing webinar. I am your host, Stephanie Chandler with the Nonfiction Authors Association, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. In this webinar, we're going to be talking about ways that you can market yourself as an author, as well as ways that you can build your author business and earn more money. The sad reality is not a lot of authors make very good money. So I want to talk to you about some ways that you can actually do that. And we're going to move through this content pretty quickly because I value your time and don't want to waste a minute of it. So first I want to just introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. I'm Stephanie Chandler. In 2003, I kissed off corporate America. I left my Silicon Valley software sales job and I opened a 2,800 square foot bookstore in Sacramento with my big master plan to sit in the back office and write novels. And what I learned in that experience was so many things. First of all, I was a lousy novelist and I kind of accidentally fell in love with writing nonfiction. But second of all, I had opened this bookstore in a strip mall that didn't have a lot of street visibility. So I had to learn very quickly how to market my business, and turned out that doing online marketing tactics worked far better than any of the traditional advertising methods like coupon mailers and things like that. I mean, we had phone book ads, we had all kinds of wasted advertising dollars. So I learned to market my business, and over time I was able to actually sell the business because, quite frankly, owning a bookstore is not as romantic as it sounds. And while I was building that store, I was basically trying out some other passions, and that became my very first website, which was businessinfoguide.com. And I launched that site because I wanted to attract a target audience for my first book. It was a business startup guide. And so I didn't know how to do that other than to start a website and start sharing content. I was basically blogging before I knew what blogging was. And what happened is the more content I added to the website, the more traffic the site received. And so as the site received more traffic, I built a mailing list. I couldn't get a publisher to touch the book, so I self-published it. I listed it for sale within a couple of months of its actual publication date, so it went up for pre-sale, and it started selling immediately. And I went, oh, okay, this is what the internet can do. It can bring me an audience. And from there, I went on and I signed book contracts with Wiley. I signed with an agent. We sold a couple more books, and this whole career was launched that I hadn't anticipated. I was still running the bookstore at that time, although that's actually not even a fair thing to say. I had a staff running the bookstore while I worked in my home office writing content and building this new career as an author and then as a consultant, because people were starting to ask me to consult. And over time, that evolved. I was working with entrepreneurs, and I found a lot of overlap in people who wanted to write books or who were getting ready to publish books. And I realized over time that I really should be focusing on the niche of working with nonfiction authors because, as I mentioned before, I love nonfiction. I think it has the ability to make an impact on the world, and I've really come to believe that my purpose is to help others achieve their purpose and to get their message out in the world. And so that's kind of the very short version of how this all evolved. But in 2010, I launched a nonfiction writers conference. And from that, we had attendees saying, hey, how do we keep in touch after this? What other resources do we have for the rest of the year? And so in 2013, we launched the Nonfiction Authors Association. And to date, we have over 12,000 members. That number climbs dramatically each month. And I'm excited and proud of what we've built. So 9 books later, lots of media coverage. I've had corporate sponsors. Some really great things have happened. I'm also a single mom. And I actually became a widow in October of 2013. And that's a story for another time. But the point is that I am a single mom, and my business really creates a great lifestyle for me. I have the flexibility to spend time with my son. I can go on his field trips. I pick him up from school several days a week. I take him to school every morning. And I have the luxury of having built a business that allows me the freedom and the flexibility to spend as much time as possible with my kid. So I hope that this all can kind of inspire you in what's possible for your own author business, because truly the possibilities are endless. So let's dig into the content. First of all, I really encourage you to figure out who is your target audience and what is it that you want to be known for. This is a big mistake that a lot of authors make early on. They don't really think about who their ideal audience is. So let's say, for example, you're writing a book on financial planning. Well, there's a heck of a lot of financial planning guides out there. So what are you going to do to separate your book and yourself from everyone else? So your book might be financial planning for divorced women, or financial planning for people starting, in midlife, that kind of thing. What you really want to do is cast a smaller net to reach more people. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the wider we try to reach, the harder it is for that information to land. So I always like to compare this to like life coaching, right? There's lots of life coaches out there. You may be one yourself. I think it's a great profession. And there are general life coaches that, I will work with anybody. But then there are life coaches who specialize in working with teens. Or I met one woman at an event once who said she was a life coach for baby boomers who want to lose weight. I mean, talk about a powerful niche. And she immediately, when she introduced herself that way at a meeting, she immediately connected with the people in the room that fit that target audience. And guess what happened? At the end of that meeting, she was bombarded with people interested in her services. So, as an author and as an authority, authority begins with author. Who is your target audience going to be? And what are you going to represent? I have some examples to share with you. The first is my good friend Carl Polachek. Carl owned an IT company, a computer consulting company, for a number of years. And several years back, he decided that he was going to go out and become a business consultant. He could have just become a general business consultant, but he decided that instead he was going to become a consultant to other IT consulting businesses. So he helps computer consultants grow their companies. It's a very small niche. I mean, it's incredibly small. There's not 100,000 of them in the U.S. There's far less than that. But guess what Carl has done? He's carved out such a powerful niche for himself. He sells thousands and thousands of dollars in products off his website every month. He's got books and workbooks, audio recordings, checklists, you name it. I think he's got well over 100 products. He hosts online events. He gets paid to do book tours. In fact, I believe he's heading to Australia for his third time in 2 years on a paid speaking tour. So he has done quite well to carve out a very small niche for himself. Another example is Melinda Emerson. She's known on Twitter as Small Biz Lady. And Melinda actually had a pretty broad niche. She wanted to help people start a business. And that's not a niche I'd recommend starting that broadly. But she did something very smart. Early on, she got on Twitter and started a weekly Twitter chat where she would interview people about entrepreneurship, all through Twitter, 140 characters at a time. And that Twitter chat really took off. And you can see today she's got over 300,000 followers on Twitter. She told me that she had to actually hire somebody to manage all of the inquiries she gets from corporate sponsors and speaking. So Melinda did something remarkable with a pretty competitive niche and found a way to really stand out, and has had resulting book deals and just built an incredible business, all thanks to doing something different with social media. Patrick Schwartfeger, he's done some interesting things. Patrick was a mortgage industry guy back when the economy was collapsing, and he wasn't really happy as a mortgage guy to begin with. So he kind of did a reassessment and said, hey, I really want to be a keynote speaker. It was a dream of his he'd had for a long time, and he decided that he was going to dedicate his career to becoming a full-time paid keynote speaker. That first year, I think he said he spoke to over 60 groups locally, church basements, service groups, chambers of commerce, anyone that would have him, he would go and speak to them. And he started the whole thing with a niche topic, and that topic was social media victories. That was when the topic of social media was very, very hot, and he rode that wave all the way into a really healthy six-figure speaking business. He self-published his first book. That led to a traditional book deal. That led to him getting a TEDx presentation, and he is traveling all over the world today as a highly paid keynote speaker, charging $10,000 to $15,000 per engagement. And this all started with a niche topic, and that topic again is social media victories. Gretchen Rubin, I think she's a really cool example. If you haven't seen the Happiness Project, I don't know what rock you've been sleeping under, but this book has been out for a number of years now. And what amazes me is that it's still at the end caps of every airport bookstore. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for I don't know how many years. And it started with Gretchen Rubin, who launched a blog to talk about how she was going to add more happiness into her already pretty content life. So she picked a theme each month. One month it was to expand her social connections. One month it was to really work on her marriage. One month it was to connect better with her kids. And she blogged about this and built in a tremendous following. And the book took off like a rocket. So again, a niche topic here, happiness for those of us, with families and kids, is a pretty important and powerful, on-demand, high-demand topic. And she, I'm sure, has zero regrets because she's created an incredible business because of it. And my last example for you is backyardchickens.com. Now, this site has nothing to do with publishing. I know the owner, Rob Ledlow, he's not an author, but I have to share this example because I think it's an incredible testimony to what it means to own your niche. Now, how many monthly visitors would you think a site like this would get? This is about raising chickens in your own backyard. So usually when I ask this to a live audience, somebody will say 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Those are all great guesses, but guess how many monthly visitors this site gets? Over 1 million unique visitors want to come learn about how to raise chickens in their backyards. So this is a powerful example of how a niche topic can explode. This website is ad supported. They don't really sell anything other than some kind of funky t-shirts and bumper stickers just for fun. but it's fully ad supported. It supports a family of four. And I have to tell you, they take a lot of cruises and vacations. So they're doing just fine off a very powerful niche topic. Who would have known? So let's get into some of the strategies to really build that audience. And the first to me is the power of blogging. I can never emphasize enough how important I think it is for authors to be blogging. Blogs are great for search engine optimization. The more content you add to your website, the more traffic your site will receive. It is statistically shown that the more often you blog, the more traffic you're going to see at your site. The other great thing about blogging is that it has media potential. So you can attract media from writing about the topics that you are an expert in. You know, early on when the recession began, I blogged a lot about how I was going to do business in the recession, how I wasn't going to let it affect me. I printed up buttons that said reject the recession. I mean, I kind of went all in on this whole I'm not going to do the recession thing. And because I blogged about it so much, I got a ton of media coverage. I got print publications, women's magazines, business publications. I was filmed live from Sacramento, California to Sunrise 7, which is Australia's version of the Today Show, and they asked me on to be the U.S. representative of what was happening in our economy because their economy was kind of collapsing behind ours. We were ahead of that. And I find that so funny that anyone would ask me to comment on anything financial related because I have not balanced my checkbook in at least 20 years and I hate anything to do with numbers. But I'll tell you, blogging is so powerful. You also never know what kind of post is going to take off. And so this example I've included here came from my publishing company blog. I had a client several years back say, I wish you'd write a blog post on how to autograph books. And I thought, well, you know, how hard is that? You get a pen, you sign the book. And then I gave it some more thought and I thought, you know, there really is some strategy involved there. You don't want to show up like I did one time. All I had was this crappy little big stick pen. You want to have a nice pen. You want to know what you're going to write in there. If you've got a line of people, you don't have time to write a paragraph of, you know, notes into somebody's book. So I ended up writing the article, and you know, to my great surprise, that article has been a top performing post on that website ever since, 4 years, on how to autograph books. Who knew? So I can't say enough how important I think it is for authors to blog. I suggest that you start with a minimum of once per week. And the thing is, I always get pushed back on the I don't have time, you know, excuse, and I get it. But if you could see how blogging impacts your business and your book sales and everything else, then you would, trust me, you would make it a priority because it is that powerful. So I challenge you to spend the next 6 months blogging once or twice a week at a minimum and watch your traffic statistics because they are going to climb and your business is going to grow. It's just inevitable. And the thing with your blog is that you don't necessarily have to produce all the content. You could invite clients or peers or readers to contribute. You can do case studies. You can do written interviews. On Business Info Guide, we do written interviews so people can fill out a form and share information about their business, or as an author of a business book, there's a form they can fill out, and we publish those interviews in full. And those are really popular not only with readers because they're interesting stories, but the people who contribute them turn around and share them with their audience. So those get tweeted and shared across social media. So blog content, super powerful. Look for ways that you can create content that really gets people talking. Another thing a lot of people don't realize is that your blog is really at the heart of your social media strategy. So every time you produce a new blog post, that gets shared across your social networks. If you're creating YouTube videos, you want to post those on your blog as a way to kind of cross promote. But it really gives you something to talk about in social media. I hear that a lot. People say, I don't know what to say in social media. Well, if you have a blog, you have the beginnings of a conversation. Next is podcasts, teleseminars, and webinars, and you happen to be participating in one right now. These are so powerful. Teleseminars and webinars have been around for a long time. Hosting free events has been a great way to build a mailing list. I've done it for many, many years, off and on. And it's just a wonderful way to attract your audience and get people to sign up for your mailing list and get them interested in the other programs that you offer. Podcasting is on fire right now. And in fact, I really view this as a huge opportunity for authors. If you have something to say and hosting your own radio show appeals to you, then I would encourage you to think about hosting your own podcast. Anyone can host a podcast. All you need is a $50 microphone and some recording software, and you can interview people, you can share tips, you can publish your podcast once a week, you could publish it every day. It could last 15 minutes, it could last an hour. And I'll tell you what's so amazing about podcasting is starting in 2017, cars are coming off the assembly line with the podcast app built into the dashboard. That means that we're going to be listening to podcasts very easily in our cars. And if you have an iPhone, you have the podcast app on your phone. Apple won't even let you delete it off your phone. That's how invested they are in podcasting. So podcasting is an incredible way to reach a broad audience and build a following and share your expertise. So if that is a medium that appeals to you, I really encourage you to look into starting your own program. Video is another powerful tool for authors to build an audience. This example here is this guy Judson Lapely, and maybe you remember several years ago, he's a keynote speaker, and at the end of his speeches, he would do this dance performance called The Evolution of Dance, and he had this mishmash of famous songs, from the twist to square dancing or break dancing, and he would put on this kind of performance of the evolution of dance, and it was really funny, really entertaining, and the video on YouTube went viral. And what happened is he ended up on all the morning shows. I remember watching the Today Show one morning, and there he was getting all this exposure. Well, guess what that does to somebody's career as a speaker and an author? That is a game changer when something like that happens. So if video is a comfortable medium for you, or if you do anything that has a visual component, if you can show how to cook something, if you can demonstrate some sort of exercise or, technique for yoga, anything with a visual element, or even just, sit down into talking head videos. If you're comfortable on video, this can be a great medium for you. Also, growing your audience through the power of community. And this is something I think a lot of authors miss out on. Your community, once you understand who your target audience is, their community should already exist. So there should be trade associations where your audience spends its time. There should be events that your audience attends. You want to go out and find them. Or, as I prefer to do, create your own community for your audience, whether you do that online with a Yahoo group or a Facebook or a LinkedIn group, or you start a local group in your own backyard. Meetup.com is an incredibly powerful way to do that. Meetup allows you to organize local meetings, and you'll find on Meetup groups ranging from, everything from parenting and hiking and singles groups to business networking and those kinds of things. And I'll tell you, several years back, I launched a group called the Sacramento Speakers Network. It was, boy, about 10 years ago. And I launched this simply because I didn't know a lot of speakers. I was just getting out on the speaking circuit, and I wanted to know other speakers in my area. So I launched a group on Meetup. Our first meeting, there were 4 of us at Starbucks. And each month we get together, and each month that group grew to the point where today it's got well over 2,000 members. I no longer run that group. I gave it away a couple of years ago. But the benefit I hadn't expected from running that group was that I got to know just about everybody in town. Came to know me and that group because they came to a meeting or they heard about a meeting or I asked them to speak at a meeting. So it was a wonderful way to build a community. I hadn't even intended for it to be a source for business, but it certainly was. I got a lot of clients because of that group over the years. So think about community. And email marketing. I have to mention this because this comes up a lot when I speak out at events. Is email marketing dead? Absolutely not. Email marketing is as valuable as it ever was. It is, in fact, probably more powerful than any other marketing tool that you have in your tool belt. It's more powerful than social media. It's more powerful than your blog because when somebody gives you their email address, they're giving you permission to market to them. And we need to take that seriously. It's harder than ever to get somebody to give their email address because we don't want more email. I get it. I don't want more email either. But what I do want in my inbox is things that are valuable or of interest to me. So, your challenge as an author is to create emails that people want to read and want to keep and want to click through and that they look forward to receiving. So I take a lot of importance in respecting my email list, trying to deliver value all the time, and that's a goal for you too. So even if you're just getting started and you don't yet even have an email list, go get a commercial email solution like Constant Contact or MailChimp and put a sign up box on your website. Even if you don't yet know what you're going to do with that sign up box, start collecting email addresses and give people some incentive to sign up, whether that's a few, chapters from your book or a report or a recording or a white paper, something that makes them want to sign up so that you can stay connected with your target audience. It's just so important. And by the way, all these strategies I'm outlining here, this is a lot, and I don't want to imply that you need to do all of this at once, right? And you don't have to have a podcast and you don't have to do video, but you do have to choose a couple of these things and do them really well. So, blogging or it definitely yes to the email address or email list, but blogging is very important. But some of these other things, you can take your time exploring and find out what works best for you. With your book marketing, you're definitely going to want to leverage bloggers. Bloggers have tremendous influence. Bloggers reach an audience on a regular basis, and there are some very popular blogs out there that reach hundreds of thousands or even millions of people every month. And when a blogger says, "Hey, I liked this book," guess what? People pay attention. These days, especially for those who are self published, bloggers and online media outlets are more powerful for you for book promotion because it's nearly impossible to get traditional media coverage. It's certainly nearly impossible to get traditional media book reviews. So you really want to turn to the bloggers who are reaching your target audience and find out if they accept guest posts or if they will do a book giveaway with you or do they conduct book reviews. These are the things to start researching and really start build some relationships with bloggers. By the way, these can be your competitors. And, I am a firm believer that there's enough business to go around for everybody. So make friends with your competitors and, offer services that they're not offering, rate the books that they're not writing, fill in some of those holes and find ways that you can support each other, maybe cross-posting on each other's blogs, that kind of thing. This gets you a lot of exposure as an author. And lastly, on the marketing discussion are book reviews. Book reviews help sell books, especially on Amazon. I can't emphasize this enough. So as an author, one of your number one ongoing marketing campaigns should be to be getting reviews for your books on Amazon and Goodreads and the other websites, but particularly on Amazon since that's where most books are purchased. Now, my favorite way to get book reviews is to reach out to existing Amazon book reviewers. These folks are reviewing your competitors' books, and if you click through any reviewer's name, they have an Amazon profile, and many reviewers include an email address and even a website link because a lot of them have their own blogs, and they want to be contacted. They love to receive review copies of books. So don't be afraid to reach out to the people who are reviewing other books in your genre and ask if they would like a review copy. There's also software that I absolutely love called Book Review Targeter that will go out and actually kind of search through Amazon to find those reviewers for you and give you a list of their email addresses. It saves a ton of time. And there's paid services like NetGalley and BookBub, and Goodreads has giveaway programs. So you want to be looking for ways that you can get your book into the hands of as many readers as possible so that you're generating buzz, people are talking about it, and telling others to read your books. So now we're going to shift over and start talking about how to make money from your marketing. So you get the marketing going. Next, you want to figure out how are you going to monetize your author business. And before we move on to talk about revenue streams for authors, I'd like to introduce you to our newest program. This is the Ultimate Author Marketing course. And this course includes 12 recorded webinars covering topics like how to choose your ideal audience, how to get online media exposure with bloggers and podcasters, strategies to get more book reviews, lots of information about revenue streams and building a profitable author business. And we also cover everything you need to know about marketing on Amazon, how to shift into becoming a paid speaker, how to attract corporate sponsors, and some advanced book marketing tactics. So if you were to participate in this course, you're going to receive over 70 downloadable checklists, templates, and worksheets. These include things like social media cheat sheets. There's a sample agreement to use when you get booked for a paid speaking gig. There's a sample corporate sponsor pitch packet, a bulk book pricing template, and many others. Like I said, 70 downloadable checklists and worksheets and things like that. So I'll share some more details at the end of this webinar, but if you're anxious to learn more right away, I've included a link here for our webinar participants, and you can go ahead and check it out right away and take advantage of the special discount that we're offering. So let's continue with revenue streams. First of all, we're talking about niche books and niche ebooks. What's so interesting to me is the narrower you get your niche, potentially the more books you're going to sell, especially if you're finding needs where other books aren't fitting the bill. So this example is from foodallergies.org. This website covers everything you need to know about food allergies. Well, guess what? They've got a bunch of niche books and ebooks about surviving life with food allergies. It's brilliant. I'm sure they sell tons of copies. I don't know them personally, but I do know that niche books do very, very well on Amazon. Also, workbooks, another revenue stream opportunity for you and your author business. I love workbooks because they have a high perceived value. For whatever reason, we're willing to pay more for a workbook than we are for a regular trade paperback. When the workbook has far less text, like 25% of the text in a regular book, but maybe the psychology of us actually having to actually do work in that workbook gets us willing to pay 30, 40, or even $50 for a workbook. I don't know, but I do know that they make great companion products as a bundle to sell with your, current trade paperback or hardcover book. They're great for upsells if you do training or speaking. Selling workbooks to your attendees is a great way to upsell, and you'll find that it's another way for you to reach an even bigger audience by having workbooks in all these subcategories. If you look here at all these subcategories, there aren't a ton of workbooks. Under self-esteem, there's only 253 titles. That's not a lot of competition. So, look at the choices that you have here and consider adding a workbook to your product offering. Professional speaking, at the beginning of this webinar, I talked about Patrick Schwartfeger and how he's transitioned from a mortgage guy to a six-figure keynote speaker traveling the world. There really is, I don't know of another profession that pays as well as keynote speaking for such little effort. Keynote speakers get $5, $10, $15,000 for a 1-hour presentation, and travel expenses are paid. So while you are spending your time on the road, if you enjoy traveling, you can see some incredible places, have amazing adventures, meet people. Professional speaking can be very, very lucrative, and being an author and a speaker go hand in hand. I'll tell you, when I published my first book way back when, I wasn't a speaker. I didn't intend to be a speaker or even a consultant. But once the book came out, I started getting inquiries and invitations to speak as well as consult, and I found myself launching a whole new revenue stream for my business that I had never even planned on. It's pretty amazing. You can also take your skills as a speaker and a trainer into hosting paid teleseminars and webinars. Now, we have lots of these for free out there to build our audience, but you can also do paid events. And this example here is SpeakerNet News. This is a website for speakers, and they host teleseminars and webinars for a fee from $10 to $30 or $40, depending on the topic and the speaker. And then all of those events get archived. So I think it's a really smart revenue stream to add to your mix as well. And along those lines is online education. There are lots of opportunities to teach courses today. You could become a teacher with Udemy or lynda.com, or start your own thing. If you've already got a fairly substantial audience, I would encourage you to teach your own courses and set up your own program to do that. There's programs like Kajabi that make it relatively easy for you to set up course programs online, or you can host it on your own website, as I do with my courses. There's also online conferences. The Social Media Success Summit is fascinating. Mike Stelzner runs this program. They get thousands of attendees to the online event every year, and at a ticket price of several $100s, that event earns millions of dollars every year. It's fascinating. Of course, I host the Nonfiction Writers Conference. It's a 3-day online event. We've done it since 2010. And our attendees love it because there's no travel involved. They get great speakers. We've had Guy Kawasaki and Julia Cameron and just some incredible speakers come through our event. So online events, online training, other great ways to add more revenue to your business. Certification programs. This example is from Jim Horan. He wrote a book called The One Page Business Plan. He self-published this book. He was a consultant who was teaching his clients how to get really focused by creating a one-page plan. And his mastermind group said, hey, you should put that into a book format. So he did. He produced the book. It's a great book, by the way. It comes with a CD in the back of it with templates for designing your own one-page business plan. And then once he launched that, he had other consultants coming to him saying, hey, I love your process. I'd love to teach it to people. So Jim listened to his audience and he launched a certification program teaching consultants how to be one-page business plan consultants. This is a fascinating model. So people pay him somewhere around $3,000 to go through his certification program, which he conducts completely online. It's an online training program. Once they're certified, these consultants can go out and teach the one-page business plan process, thus promoting Jim's brand and his books, and it just kind of has this snowball effect. I think it's fascinating. So if you have something to teach, this could be a great way for you to do that. Create your own certification program. Information products have been around forever. To me, a book is the ultimate info product, but basically an information product is any way that you can compile and deliver information digitally. That could be a white paper, it could be a recording, it could be a PDF of a workbook. One example that I love very much comes from Joan Stewart. She's the publicity hound. She's done this for years and she does it really well. She sells reports on her website for, I don't know, around $15, I think, on average. And some of these reports are as few as 3 pages long, but they're tips from a former media professional on how to get publicity. And she does very well to sell these reports. And one of my favorite things she does is in her newsletter, she'll say, here's your publicity tip. And if you like this tip, you'll love report number 89 on, how to reach out to radio shows or whatever it is. So if you want a good example of somebody who sells information products very successfully, Joan Stewart's doing a great job. There are also member programs that you can create. This example comes from herbmentor.com. You can join a community to learn how to harvest and grow herbs. I'm not a gardener, but I can see why people would participate in something like this. And another example of a membership program or a subscription program, this I just have to share it because I love it. This is not an author, but it's a great example of the power of marketing online. And this is Loops Club. This gal owns a knitting store in Oklahoma. And apparently knitting is a seasonal business. So for part of the year, the store wasn't very busy. And she was trying to figure out how is she going to increase revenue and make up for that time in the store that's not very busy during the year. And she came up with a program called Loops Club. So for a subscription fee of, I don't know if it's $40 or $50 a month, the subscribers receive every month a batch of yarn and a pattern for a new item to design by knitting. It's a knitting club. And guess how much revenue she's generating from her yarn club? Over $1 million a year. It's really amazing. So the power of subscription and offering something is, you just can't beat it. And there's also community. So you can create an online community. This example comes from John Lee Dumas. He is a top podcaster. His community is called Podcasters Paradise. This is a paid community where people who want to learn about podcasting can join for $99 a month and get training and get access to the membership base that has an active forum and things like that. So at $99 a month, how much would you guess that John Lee Dumas makes from this community? He actually publishes his revenues on his website every month, and you can look at that at any time. But he is generating on average $300,000 to $400,000 a month, not a year, a month, from the membership in his community and the resulting sponsors that he's generated because he has a very powerful podcast. So here we are talking about a really successful niche online business. And finally, on the revenue streams discussion is corporate sponsors. To me, these are kind of the holy grail for authors. We want to work with corporate sponsors, and the more important thing is that corporate sponsors want to work with us. They want access to our audiences. As authors and speakers, we are known as influencers. That is the key buzzword in the corporate world. And they want to work with influencers who have high website traffic, high blog traffic, large social media followings, lots of subscribers to the podcast or the video channel. These are the things that they are looking for. I've worked with tons of corporate sponsors over the years. I've earned hundreds of thousands of dollars from corporate sponsors doing things like serving as a spokesperson for a company's brand, hosting Twitter chats and webinars, producing video tips on behalf of a sponsor. So there's many ways that you can work with a sponsor and build once you build your audience, the sponsors will come. I promise you, they want to reach your audience. So with all of this said, I want to wrap this up with the gardening analogy. And the thing about gardening is you either love it or you hate it. I happen to be one of those people who does not love gardening. But I do love the end result of gardening. I love having a beautiful yard. So I do it begrudgingly, right? But I get my yard done so that it looks nice. You may feel this way about marketing. Marketing may not be your favorite thing to do, but the end result is so worthwhile. So my point here is that if you were to walk out into your garden every day and plant 3 seeds, what would happen over time? Over time, those seeds would grow and you would end up having a spectacular garden. Well, that works the same way with marketing. If you plant 3 seeds every day with your marketing, you write a blog post, you share social media posts, you book yourself for a podcast interview, whatever it is, if you set time aside to do 3 things every day that further your author marketing, your book marketing, your revenue creation, over time, you're going to have a beautiful garden and a really spectacular business. Take it from me. I know I started from the ground up just like you, and it has been such a great ride. So with all of that said, I want to thank you so much for participating. As I mentioned earlier, I would love for you to join me in the Ultimate Author Marketing course. This course isn't just about marketing books, it's about marketing you as an authority in your field. It's about building your audience and adding new revenue streams and redefining what being a successful author means to you. I had actually intended